Amanda Hansen back here at the Action News 5 digital desk. Of course, a lot to unwrap following last night's big election. Of course, Paul Young coming out as the next mayor to lead the city of Memphis. And of course, we have a lot of people slated to talk with us, break down their thoughts on last night's election. And we have Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy. Give me the thumbs up if you're good to go. All right, we have Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy joining us here on the Action News 5 digital desk. How you doing this morning, first off?
Just fine, thank you. How are you doing?
Doing well. I really appreciate you taking time to join us on here. I know last night that you sat down or you talked with Joe Birch. I believe that was before we actually got the election results in. So I guess my first question for you is, what is your reaction? What's your thoughts? I know that going in, you had endorsed Van Turner. Tell me how you feel this morning and your thoughts on the turnout last night.
Right. Well, I mean, I wish the turnout overall had been higher. We should have had at least 100,000 votes cast, and that was disappointing. Yeah, as you noted, I did endorse Van Turner, but I also like Paul Young very well. I've known him well, worked well with him for years. I'm sure I'll be able to work well with him as a mayor. He ran a great campaign, and I've already congratulated him last night. I do think, in terms of Van Turner, the fact that he got such a higher result on election day than he did during early voting shows that there really was a surge towards the end. I think the endorsements by Congressman Cohen, Mayor Harris, Representative Justin Pearson, and the labor unions, his branding as a progressive Democrat, that did help him. It wasn't enough ultimately. And I think that, Paul Young and Van Turner kind of competed for the same share of voters. And that's another reason why I think I'm going to be, working well with Young in his new administration.
It's an interesting point because we've talked a lot here on the digital desk heading into the election about how Van Turner and Paul Young probably were pulling the same sort of voters, and that with such a large pool of candidates, it was going to be interesting to see how things played out. But, like you mentioned, the top four candidates, when you think of Willie Harrington, Floyd Bonner, Paul Young, and Van Turner, they all really were pretty close when you look at the percentages. But I guess moving forward, leading up to this, one of the big topics for a lot of people was crime in the city of Memphis. Going in, what are some of the first steps do you think that Paul Young is going to need to make coming in that first 100 days?
Well, I mean, that's going to be up to him, right? But I will say this, he has to make a big decision about the, direction of the Memphis Police Department and a command of the Memphis Police Department. He's going to have to deal with the pattern and practice investigation that the Justice Department has filed against the Memphis Police Department. I think, there's some police reform things that need to be taken care of. In terms of crime, I just hosted a public safety summit recently with all the main decision makers, and we came up with 5 consensus priorities that we're going to be working on. I'm going to reach out to the mayor and see if we can get his cooperation on some of those. And at the same time, I'll be open to his input about what initiatives, he thinks are important and priorities. The only way we're going to get a handle on this crime problem, which is a serious one that we've got to take seriously, is if all of us work together. And I look forward to him doing that. Yeah, and if I could just say real quick about the vote totals, you had mentioned the split of the vote. I think any system in which somebody can win with 27% of the vote is a system that's in need of reform. And that's not anything against Paul Young. That would have been true no matter who won in this race. I think we should seriously look at changing our election system. And I know that some people would say we should go back to a regular runoff system. And the problem with that is runoff elections in Memphis have really low turnout, 5%. That 5% is disproportionately white and wealthy. We did 3 times vote for ranked choice voting. And if the state legislature would allow us to try it, I think that would actually be an improvement over their current system, which, as you saw, when you've got a crowded field of 17 candidates, somebody can win with only 27% of the vote.
That is true. That actually was a conversation that we had with a political reporter, Jackson Baker, with Memphis Flyer yesterday, making that same point. We were listening, though, we had a conversation with Paul Young leading up to the election. And one thing he was talking about when it comes to crime is bringing everyone together at the table. I know you just mentioned that. Are you expecting that phone call on that conversation on starting to get everybody on board? Because he says it's going to take more than just one person to get there.
Well, he is absolutely right about that, and I am glad to hear him say that. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing from him once he takes office, or his team, or even during the transition, about how his office and mine can work together. And I think he's absolutely right. The only way this is going to help at all with crime is if we have an all hands on deck approach. If all of the agencies work together and we stop the finger pointing and we roll up our sleeves and do what needs to be done to make our streets safe.
And, one other question, because I know one thing was talking about when he comes in as mayor, he's going to be dealing with, the Memphis Police Department. There's been a lot of conversations and a lot of talk about, should he keep C.J. Davis in that position or look for someone else? Would you like to comment, have any thoughts on maybe what direction he might take?
Well, I mean, personnel decisions are going to be entirely up to him. I have worked well with C.J. Davis. I like her. I think we have a good working relationship. It's going to be Paul Young's call what he does with MPD. Whatever he does, I think, we need to strike a balance between the need for aggressive enforcement and improvements in police recruitment, but at the same time, training our officers so, we can have a curb on excessive force and racial profiling, which I think the Department of Justice correctly identified as systemic issues. I'm not saying that there's bad intent here. I'm just saying that there are issues that need to be addressed, both to increase fairness as well as to make our enforcement more effective so that we can actually increase safety.
And I guess before we let you go, any last thoughts?
Well, once again, I had many friends in this race, and, I think they all ran a great campaign. And I think that the time is now for us to just sort of put the campaign aside and rally behind the new administration. And, we all succeed if Paul Young succeeds.
Well, Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy joining us here on the Digital Desk. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and you have a great weekend, all right?
You too. Take care now.